Sends 2 people to the hospital. We'll have the latest from the city of Knoll.
President Trump signed the $900 billion COVID relief bill last night. I'm Bofta Imam on Capitol Hill with what this means for millions of Americans on unemployment and the expected vote today that could bring hundreds of dollars to your pocket.
And a 4-state market is able to stay alive, keeping a community fed.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
At least 2 people are in the hospital after a fire breaks out on Main Street in Knoll, Missouri. This is the KOAM News at Noon. I'm Jesse Irwin. The call came in this morning about a store on the 300 block of Main Street being on fire. The flames spread and burned another building, a mosque, adjacent to the store. 2 people were taken to a hospital, including a firefighter. Knoll and surrounding fire departments responded to the call, and we'll have more information on the Knoll fire coming up tonight on the KOAM News at 5. A family in Granby, Missouri struggles with the loss of their home after a fire just a few days before Christmas. The family says on Tuesday afternoon, a volunteer fireman and neighbor noticed smoke coming from their home. The firemen helped Dan and Virginia Black safely evacuate along with two children and 3 other family members living in the basement. Officials are still working out the cause of the fire, but in the meantime, the family is feeling thankful they made it out together. On Christmas Day, community members dropped off toys, clothes, and a holiday meal.
It's just amazing how many people have come by and brought stuff. We don't know all their names because there were so many.
The family is staying at the Boonslick Lodge in Neosho and now is looking for a rental until they can find a new place to set up on their land. If you'd like to help, we put Virginia's number in this story on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Police in Galena, Kansas warned the community about a recent string of car break-ins. Officers say Saturday night numerous vehicles were burglarized all over town and that they've received calls from citizens about the break-ins. The thefts have been happening from 3rd to 27th Streets and have not been concentrated in any specific location. Now, there's no word yet if police suspect one person or multiple people behind the crimes, but they're reaching out and asking for tips. They're also reminding you not to leave valuables in your vehicles. 5 women were found dead in their family home on Christmas Day near Atkins, Arkansas. Inside were 2 adults and 3 children. The Pope County Sheriff's Office says the youngest victim was only 8 years old. Investigators don't have a suspect in custody or a possible motive, but police say guns were involved in this attack. Arkansas State Police are helping in the case. Days after he threatened to derail the coronavirus relief package unless Congress increased stimulus payments, President Trump abruptly changed course and signed the funding package last night. Bofta Yemen reports from Capitol Hill, where the House is expected to vote on a separate bill today to increase stimulus payments.
Hours after President Trump was seen at his Palm Beach golf course, came official word that he signed the massive $900 billion coronavirus relief bill. The legislation includes stimulus checks and extensions of federal unemployment benefits and eviction protection.
It's called the COVID relief bill.
It was a sudden shift. Just hours earlier, the president had retweeted a video of his demand to raise stimulus payments.
I am asking Congress to amend this bill and increase the ridiculously low $600 to $2,000 or $4,000 for a couple.
In a statement, the president insisted that lawmakers take action on several of his top priorities, including holding a vote on increasing payments, reviewing protections for tech companies, and looking into election fraud. The House had already planned to vote today on a standalone bill to increase stimulus payments.
The Senate will come to order.
But it's expected to go nowhere in the Republican-controlled Senate. And because the president waited until Sunday to approve the relief package, more than 14 million Americans will lose a week's worth of unemployment benefits. Bofta Imam, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
The House is also expected to consider overriding President Trump's veto of the National Defense Authorization Act today. The president vetoed the bill last week, calling it a gift to China and Russia. The president asked lawmakers to include limits on social media companies and to get rid of the provisions that allow for the renaming of military bases that honor Confederate leaders. Well, looks like we're going to close down 2020 with a little bit of everything weather-wise. Michael joins us now with a look at the weather.
Yeah, and, despite the fact that today is dry, after we get to the 7-day forecast, we're going to run strings of precipitation and a little bit of everything. Like you said, Jesse, whether it be rain, some freezing rain, even some snow here to close out the end of our year. Here's the SKYWATCH storm tracker as we sit at 5 minutes after the noon hour. Cloud cover really moved in on pretty much overcast skies. Now you see a little bit being picked up by the sweeping radar. We have had reports of just some flurries that people have seen, but not enough to even stick around. Certainly not exactly what they're encountering out in western and central Kansas right now, but we're going to kind of concentrate on what's developing down in Oklahoma because that's going to play a role in our weather for tomorrow. Now the Freeman Health System sky camera is going to stay on the dry side for the rest of today. 36 degrees, the actual temperature, finally getting above freezing, but low. It took us a long time to get up there. Still got a wind chill in effect, all the way to 30. But look at that humidity. We were talking about the flurries not sticking around. That's not too bad for this time of year, down to 70%. We like that. A whole bunch of mid-30s on the board, hardly a 40 up there. We got Miami and Welch just about to creep in to the 40-degree mode. I think we'll see some low 40s, majority probably high 30s for the rest of the afternoon. Not a whole lot of warm up because of the cloud cover, but more importantly, look at those panels on the right side. They got some precip coming out of them. Now it's going to develop early tomorrow morning down to the southwest. Starts as rain and even the pink indicating freezing rain just in time for the morning ride and hanging on to mid-morning. Watch this thing stall. Okay, now we transition over into rain and then it backs up on itself, sweeps in to the north or the northwest to the southeast. So number one, we got travel concerns for early tomorrow morning, especially to the north. Number two, then we got to worry about localized flooding because this rain's going to last all the way into Wednesday. Coming up here in just a little bit, Jesse, we'll talk about what's after the rain, our winter weather advisories, and also, too, the snow from the next system that's going to arrive on Thursday.
Feels like we learned a lot about the next few days in the last couple of hours.
This will be our longest streak of wintry weather that we've had this season.
Whew. All right. Thank you, Michael. Well, that's a look at today's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Up next on the KOAM News at noon, more details emerge from the Christmas Day Nashville bombing and how 6 police officers who rushed to the scene are credited with clearing the neighborhood and saving lives. And later, with colder weather on the way, a 4-state shelter expands its size to accommodate those in need. Topping Nation Watch, federal officials are still searching for a motive in the Nashville bombing on Christmas Day. Federal authorities have identified the bomber as 63-year-old Anthony Quinn Warner and say his remains were found at the scene of the RV blast. Molalangi is near the blast site in Nashville.
If you can hear this message, evacuate now.
Surveillance video captured the sheer power of the Christmas morning blast, which brought downtown Nashville to a grinding halt. Yesterday, the FBI named 63-year-old Tennessee resident Anthony Quinn Warner as the bomber. According to a law enforcement bulletin obtained by CBS News, agents found a note while searching Warner's house that led them to a witness. That witness told the FBI they spoke to Warner about a week before the bombing, and that Warner gave them his car, saying he had cancer and didn't need it anymore. Gloves and a beanie hat were found in that car, and DNA from those items were used to match the DNA gathered from the remains at the scene.
We're still following leads, but right now there is no indication that any other persons were involved.
At least 3 others were injured in the blast. These 6 brave officers rushed to the scene that morning, saving lives.
Probably about 5 minutes after we're there, I'd say that the timer then started counting down.
Officer Tyler Llewellyn was the first to arrive, charging into harm's way as the RV eerily played the song Downtown by Petula Clark over a loudspeaker. It played in between minutes, counting down the bomb's imminent explosion.
We essentially made contact with, I believe, 6, 7 apartments and asked them to evacuate.
Authorities have not yet determined a motive, but they are looking at all possibilities, including trying to access a hard drive that may have belonged to Warner. They're also looking at credit card records, which preliminarily show the purchases for chemical precursors, material that may have been used to create a homemade bomb. But at this point, it does appear that he acted alone. Molalangi, CBS News, Nashville.
The RV exploded outside an AT&T communications hub, knocking out cell and Wi-Fi service from Tennessee to Alabama. A source tells CBS News Warner's late father once worked for AT&T. Investigators are also looking into whether Warner may have been influenced by online conspiracy theories about 5G technology. Still to come on the KOAM News at noon, Mr. Food.
If you love stuffed mushrooms and pepperoni pizza, then you'll love what we're making today. And it's perfect for New Year.
But first, Michael Hayslip returns with your complete forecast.
Hope you had a chance to absorb some of that early morning sun, because it's going to be a while before we see the glow cloud again. Weather Almanac on this December 28th. I want to point out our precipitation, not only for the month, but for the year. Believe it or not, coming off of that record-setting spring that we had, we're about an inch and a half down, about half an inch down from our historical mark of where we'd normally be. But this month number right there, we're about 1.8 inches down since December 1. 1.8 inches down. Guess what? We're going to make that up. We're going to make that up real fast here. Monday, cloudiness has poured in. We've gotten some reports of just some very light flurries throughout southeast Kansas. Nothing really been able to hit the ground or stick for the most part. And then still looking at that storm out there. We're going to get through today just fine. But I give you an idea about what's coming, because I point out the winter weather watches, the winter weather warnings all throughout the upper Midwest. And we find ourselves with a winter weather advisory for our 4 counties up in the northwest quadrant. Notice that lasts all the way until 11 a.m. on Tuesday. Really a harbinger of what's to come. Not so much for tonight even, but beginning tomorrow morning, because we're still awaiting this system out in the 4 corners that made its way off the Pacific. What we see right here in portions of western Kansas up to Nebraska, that's going to kind of go to the northeast of us. Ours is going to spawn down here, going to sweep through, take that bottom portion of the jet stream just in time for tomorrow. Chilly Monday. We've got wind chills down into the 30s, but our temperatures have pushed above freezing, so that's not too bad. I think we top out around 40, 41 degrees, not much more than that. Now, let's talk about the good stuff, because that's going to be tomorrow morning. And when I say the good stuff, I mean weather monitoring. I'm not talking about what we're going to encounter. Down here is like we talked about coming out of Oklahoma. Now, the majority of it remains as rain for Tuesday morning's commute, but we do see some freezing rain right here indicated in pink. That's where we had our winter weather advisories, a little bit of it filtering over. But you'll also notice too, instead of it continuing up to the northeast, we get a warm nose that pushes in. That transitions everything over. Not a bad thing, stays as rain, but look at what happens. Instead of continuing northeast, then it begins to drop down to the southeast. Bands of very, very heavy rain. We're going to be talking about some localized flooding here by the time Wednesday's over. And then as we transition into Wednesday, Thursday, look at the backside of this. Keeps on coming out of Oklahoma. We get a light band of snow that rolls through there. It's going to be an interesting way to finish off 2020. That's why I wanted to start with our precipitation numbers there, because we're going to make this up real fast. Look at Thursday and Friday. Yeah, slipping below freezing. That rain going to turn over into snow.
Is a heck of a way to end 2020.
Bye-bye, 2020.
Yeah.
Got here.
Good riddance. Thanks, Michael. Well, we take this time to honor today's 4-state hero. Seaman Michael Langston was a member of the United States Navy from 1970 to 1974. He served in Vietnam and received the Purple Heart. His hometown, Dennis, Kansas. We're proud to salute Michael Langston, today's 4-state hero. The countdown to end 2020 is on, and even though New Year's Eve parties will have a distinctively different look this week, food is still the important part. And that's why Howard has a perfect snack of pepperoni pizza stuffed mushrooms in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
With New Year's Eve just days away, we've got a fun twist on stuffed mushrooms, where we add everything we love about our favorite pizza, including the pepperoni and the ooey gooey cheese. And yes, it's very easy. We start by separating the stems and caps from about a pound of mushrooms, and we chop the stems. We found the best way to do this is with one of those inexpensive hand choppers that we can find almost everywhere. Okay, we saute the chopped stems in some melted butter, and once they cook down a bit, we take them off the heat and add in some breadcrumbs, chopped pepperoni slices, a few seasonings, in some pizza sauce and give it a good stir. We spoon the mixture into the caps using a teaspoon. Like this. We want to make sure they're filled nice and high. These can even be made ahead of time and baked right before serving them. A little mozzarella gets melted on top, and they're done. With every bite, we get all the things we love about pepperoni pizza in the form of stuffed mushrooms. To get the recipe, all you need to do is go to our website and look for pepperoni pizza stuffed mushrooms. This way you'll have it on hand in time for New Year's or whenever you want something crazy good. I'm Howard in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we found a pizzalicious way for you to say, ooh, it's so good.
He did it again. Unbelievable. You can find this recipe along with a lot more good food from the Mr. Food Test Kitchen online. Just go to our website, KOAMnewsnow.com. The city of Erie, Kansas finalizes the purchase of Stubbs Market, the only general grocery store in Erie. Now, the former owners of Stubbs retired and could not find a buyer, so the city stepped in to prevent Erie from becoming a food desert. Cindy Garland will be the new manager of the store, which will be renamed the Erie Market.
I just hope the people that do want this grocery store come and shop here, because they have to support it if we want a grocery store, and that's the main thing, period, is this thing will thrive if they just do some of their shopping here.
City officials have said they are open to suggestions from the community on how the store should change. Now here's a look at your 4-state market prices. As temperatures start to drop and colder months are upon us, Souls Harbor looks for a way to keep the homeless population warm. With the pandemic, they aren't able to put as many people inside their housing area as before. As a warming station, normally the housing area can hold around 100 people, so they've decided to open up their chapel and pantry area to space more people out. They're able to social distance with the pews in the chapel with a volunteer watching over the station.
It's very important to have cold weather warming stations because, yeah, once it gets to freezing out there, I mean, you're going to see people who get more sick than they ever have been. You're going to have frostbite situations, and you're going to have people that are going to die if they get left out there in the cold to freeze.
The chapel warming station is open every day from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m.
What Diana and her organization do is going to be extremely important this week. Remember, tomorrow morning, mostly rain, but some freezing rain to the northwest. Flips over to rain, lasts with us all the way from Tuesday into Wednesday morning. And then on the backside of that, then we've got snow and a massive cold front that takes us below freezing to wrap up 2020. What you got coming up tonight at 5, Jesse?
Well, coming up tonight at 5, now that President Trump signed the newest COVID relief package, what does that mean for your taxes? A local tax expert answers those questions, plus the latest on the grocery store fire in Knoll, Missouri that also burned a mosque and sent 2 people to the hospital. And the coronavirus pandemic triggered a crisis that killed more than 1.5 million lives around the world in 2020. We take a look at the year in health. Join us for those stories and more on the KOAM News at 5.
Thanks for joining us here at noon. See you right back here at 5 o'clock.